Your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company and Elon Musk. Welcome back. I've got a new episode today. It's another prediction episode. We do our weekly predictions now, and I'm pretty confident we're going to be full up with ideas for the next year or so. So let's get cracking. Okay, so welcome to A Boring Revolution. It's weekly predictions about the Boring Company and Elon Musk. So, weekly predictions. This is our new format. Basically, just to recap on last week, I predict something, and then we go back and look at it, say, in a year's time. I reckon a year's time, maybe 18 months' time, I have a look and say, oh, it was correct. You know, that was a good prediction based on solid groundwork or solid evidence, or wow, that was a terrible prediction and you got it completely wrong. Because frankly, at the moment, we don't have as much information as we'd like on the Boring Company in terms of the actual designs, the engineering, and the actual plans for the expansion of the system. If we had more information, we would be super pleased. So here it is. Here's our pod. It's a very beautiful, kind of simplistic vehicle, and it's going to be based on the Model X chassis. I'd imagine it would use the same batteries as in the Model 3. So that's the 2170s, which are more energy dense than the ones in the current Model X. So, prediction number 2, this is our second prediction. The Boring Company will utilise a 200 kilowatt hour battery in its pods. Now, why do I think that? Well, I just don't think 100 kilowatt hours is going to cut it. I think they need the range, they need the power, and they need, a long lifespan. So here are my reasons for that. And I think it's pretty common sense why I've decided 200 kilowatt hours is about right. Now, they might surprise us by doing 250, maybe 240, 220, something like that. But I think around 200 is about the perfect level for a pod working in LA. So, number 1, range. Pretty obvious reason. Each pod needs to make hundreds of journeys per day. Now, I'm unsure how long a typical journey will be. It could be less than 10 miles, it could be slightly more than 10 miles, but that all adds up. So therefore, having a very, very long range, you will need a large battery. So 200 kilowatt hours is about right. Performance, top speed of 155 miles per hour. So obviously, getting up to speed quickly, it's easier because you can draw more power from the battery if it is bigger. Also, if you're going at high speed, you're going to be consuming more energy at a quicker rate, because obviously it's all to do with aerodynamics. You're having to force yourself through more air at high speeds. Number 3, fast charging. It is easier with a big battery. So if you're going to charge up say a 50 kilowatt hour battery, it's quite easy to put that first sort of 50-60% into the battery. If you start off with 1% charge, well, you shouldn't really let it go below to 1%. So let's say 5. Let's say you start off with 5%. To get to 60% is relatively easy. But after that, the speed slows down quite quickly. The best kind of way to describe it is a bit like trying to force air into a balloon. So you've got a balloon that's got 5% air in it, and then you just keep trying to blow air into it. It's quite easy to begin with, but as it kind of stretches, you imagine like it's reaching the limits of the material. It's difficult to keep pumping air into that balloon. So it's similar to a battery. If you've got a 200 kilowatt hour battery, and you start off with 5%, so that would be 10. You'd have 10 kilowatts of charge in that battery. it'd be very easy to get up to 120, 130 kilowatts quite quickly. You may be able to do it in less than 25, 30 minutes. It's after that where it gets difficult. So if you have these vehicles queuing up and they're constantly putting in, say, 10, 15 minutes of charge every 2 or 3 hours of operation, it makes sense to have a 200 kilowatt hour battery, or maybe even bigger. So those are very important things: performance, fast charging. You've got to have a big battery to achieve them, and range as well. Lifespan, longer life with scheduled charging. Now, as we've just touched on, it's not good for a battery if you're really trying to force electricity into it very, very quickly. It heats up, and obviously it's charging fast. It's going to alter the chemistry of that battery over time if you're constantly throwing very large amperages and voltages into that battery. The best way to maintain a battery and to improve its performance is to never let it drop below 5%, even 10%. You probably, if it was me and I had my own electric vehicle, I would never let it drop below 10. And I'd never ever charge it above 90%. And that's very important. And obviously you could just charge it maybe every day just for an hour. That would be even better. The less of the battery that you're using is better, because you're putting less strain on the battery. So with the pods, they could just be charging it up to 85%, 90%, letting it drop down to 30%, then charging it back up, and just continually doing that all day. And that would maintain the battery. You'd maybe even get 15, 18 years out of a battery pack, which is perfect. Then you could recycle it and then put a new battery pack into that pod. So those are my main reasons. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, really. There's nothing controversial about that. Let's look at some comparisons. So 200 kilowatt hours sounds like a hell of a lot. Really does sound like a lot of power. However, because we've got that high speed, we've got a combination of high speed, high use, and obviously we need to put power into those batteries quickly, because we want to have as less pods as possible, because that's more efficient for making money. We need around 200 kilowatt hours, 220 kilowatt hours, something in that kind of range would be perfect. That sounds like a lot. However, there are vehicles with more battery power or more battery capacity. Let's look at some cars, let's look at some trucks, let's look at some buses. So obviously, as a bit of a Tesla fanboy, I've started off with some Tesla vehicles. So Tesla Model S, the P100D, has got a 100 kilowatt hour battery. It's got a range of well over 300 miles. I believe the 100D actually, the 100D has got more range because it's not the performance version, but it's a good, for a family car, that's perfect. Tesla Roadster, obviously the new Roadster, has a 200 kilowatt hour battery, has a range, I believe it's 615 miles, I believe. You can squeeze out of it. Obviously you'd have to drive it economically, have to drive it about 58 miles an hour to get those 600 odd miles. Tesla semi-truck. This is based on rumours. We don't actually know how many kilowatt hours are in the battery. However, some people have sat down and worked it out, and they believe to achieve 500, 600 miles of range, you'd need at least 900 kilowatt hours, because you are pulling, I believe, around 50 tons, which is incredible. So you'd need 900 kilowatt hours to achieve 600 miles on the perfect day. Perfect straight road, perfect gradient, perfect weather. Proterra, brilliant company. They're doing very well for themselves. The most expensive bus, the E2, has 660 kilowatt hours. And they have got, I believe, nearly 600 miles out of it hypermiling. And that is a heavy bus. So again, in comparison to the Semi and the Proterra, 200 kilowatt hours doesn't seem too bad. Audi e-tron. Obviously this has been announced in the past 2 to 3 weeks. They've gone for a 90 kilowatt hour battery. It's got a reasonable range. Prices of batteries are coming down dramatically. Around 6% a year, 5 to 6%. So by the time we get to 2021, 2022, when hopefully the Boeing company is really very seriously thinking about expanding the system, 200 kilowatt hours will be very reasonably priced. And also the tech that goes into it will have improved immensely. So here's our pod bottom right. As you can see, bottom left, we have the Model X chassis. That is what we'll be using, and together with the 2170 cells that Tesla are manufacturing. That's top left at the Gigafactory in Reno, Nevada. I've also put there in just for a bit of context, top right is the Faraday Future. I believe it's Faraday. It's either Faraday or Lucid. I think it's Faraday. Their chassis with their batteries. Obviously, they use a different type of battery. I'd imagine Tesla would continue to use the 2170 as it is a real game changer in terms of performance. Yeah, just to give you an illustration, 200 kilowatt hours is very, very acceptable, and it'll be available at a good price in the next couple of years. So the Gigafactory makes large battery packs are very viable. Obviously, because they can manufacture batteries at very high volumes, they have got the economies of scale. That means that they can produce more batteries and the vehicles that they're used in, and they can produce it at a better gross margin. So it works out quite well for Tesla, and also that works out very well for the Boeing company as well. So 200 kilowatt hours, you know, if you purchased a 200 kilowatt hour battery today, in 2 years' time, that would be considerably less, because the economies of scale are continuing to expand. And it's not just Tesla that is doing that. There's a lot of other companies building battery factories or gigafactories. Yeah, I would be absolutely, honestly guys, I'd be amazed if it was close, even if it was close to 400 kilowatt hours. It's just not, we do not require a battery pack of that size. It's way, way too much. It needs to be around the 200 to 240 kilowatt hour. That's around about, that's perfect in terms of, it's a reasonable cost, but you get all the benefits of having a large battery pack. Yeah, so Tesla is a partner for life. Pods will be manufactured at the Gigafactory in Reno, Nevada. And they will continue to get better economies of scale as they continue to expand that facility. They're beginning to use a large solar array on top of the Gigafactory. That again will drive down energy costs, which will obviously be passed on to the consumers. And the Boeing company, which again will drop the price of all the batteries. Yeah, so I'm excited to see the pods. Hopefully one day I'll go to see them in person. I'd love to come and have a look when they do unveil it. Oh. That's my Amazon Alexa going off. No idea why. I've set her off. Please like and subscribe, guys. If you've not already done so, like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. Hit that bell icon. I'm going to get a lot of content out there very soon. Please add some comments below. I want to know what you're feeling. I want to know what you're thinking about 200 kilowatt hours. Also, what else are your concerns in regards to the Boeing company? What do you believe I should do as a video? Have you got any ideas? And that is me. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it. And oh yeah, we've got, actually, tell a lie, I have some news. I managed to dig out one news article from Teslarati, another one news source for this company, other than myself. As the Boeing company, so it's in regards to the Boeing company, is hiring key personnel in preparation for the tunnel project. So I don't know if you've watched my first 3 videos on this channel, but one of the things that I've been mentioning quite a lot is that they need a team of experienced engineers, structural engineers, people have experience of building tunnels in order to make this company a success. Now, they don't necessarily need to stay for the long term, but in the short term to medium term, their experience will help grow the company and help them avoid mistakes. So as the Boring Company starts preparing for its growing list of tunneling projects, the startup has been filling in a number of key positions that would enable it to bring Elon Musk's vision of futuristic high-speed tunnel systems into reality. Several key hires have already been filled by the company, and based on the job positions listed on its official website, the Boring Company seems to be looking to expand its workforce even more. So that's a very good sign, and that they are ready to do the Chicago project. They're ready to do the dugout loop, and obviously they're building their test tunnel or proof of concept tunnel in Hawthorne. So again, we've got lots of progress, and they seem to be bringing people in. So this guy and this guy, so I'll just read you this and then explain it. To aid the company in a series of projects, the Boring Company has hired several key personnel, among them being Mike Wonghua, who used to work for Mott MacDonald, which is part of the consortium that lost to the tunneling startup in the bid for the Chicago O'Hare project. Wonghua, who worked for Mott MacDonald as a principal engineer, so this is a guy with a lot of experience in a high position, for structures and tunnel design and manager, started his employment with the Boring Company last April as the startup's chief tunnel engineer. So it's very good. I'm very, very bullish about this because he's obviously a very experienced guy. He's working for a major contractor, Mott MacDonald, and he filled a very critical piece of the puzzle here. Chief tunnel engineer. Also, the Boring Company has also hired Patrick O'Leary as a structures engineering designer. O'Leary is no stranger to Elon Musk companies and his ambitious projects, having worked for SpaceX in the past. Prior to his work at the Boring Company, though, O'Leary did a brief stint at Virgin Orbit. Michael Sagan, a SpaceX Deputy General Counsel for nearly a decade, is also credited as being one of the first executives who played an important part in his company's bid for the Chicago O'Hare project. The Boring Company might be less than 2 years old, but the tunneling startup is steadily showing that it has the potential to become a formidable force in the construction and transportation industry, which is exactly what I've been saying for the last 3.5 months. It's good to see. Excellent, excellent. Great. Right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. It's good news to hear that the Boring Company is employing some really high caliber individuals with experience. They're going to consistently design and redesign the TBMs for the Boring Company and really build something rather special. And we are going to achieve some extremely fast boring speeds very soon, because when we do that, all the doubters are going to shut up, which is good for me because then I can laugh at them. And on that note, I'll say goodbye, do not be boring, and I'll see you later. Thanks for joining us.